Hey, what's up, my man?
Hey, all good, all good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for finding the time to hop on the show, to hop on the podcast. It's
My
a
pleasure.
great pleasure and honor actually to have you, Taker.
Very much.
Not sure if you knew, but I've always been a big fan ever since the ROC days. Uh,
Really? I did not
abs
know that. That flatters me. Thank you so much.
No, 100%. Like my friend and I, we were hanging out at his basement, just getting into the game, and you were one of the very first people to reach a certain status of fame. So, yeah, it was great to follow you back then. But before we dive into the deep discussion, why don't you introduce yourself first to the audience? Because there may still people out there who might not be as familiar with your name.
Yeah, sure, of course. So, my name is Taker or Christopher in real life. Some people still use my real name. I've been a pro gamer actually back in the days. It's been quite some time. Basically, I started playing StarCraft in '98, so that was my
Hmm.
first real-time strategy game. And by that time, I actually did not have any Wi-Fi at all. We could only play like in LAN, me and my
Yep.
neighbors. So I would carry my desktop PC over, and we would play and play. So we've done that for like a year, and then we finally got our internet connection. And since we played like so much by that time, we became pretty good from the beginning. I still remember playing against like people that had like I don't know 5 or 6. One of them was called Polizei actually, which is like police. I'm not sure if you know him. But then eventually Warcraft yeah came out, and that was where I became famous. And StarCraft I was like nobody, I think. But in Warcraft I was at the right time at the um, right space. So we were picked up by MTW in 2000. When
Hmm.
was that actually? 2004 or so, I think. 2002 was the release of Warcraft, right? So I think it
Yeah.
was like 1 year maybe after that, or 1.5 years roughly. And ever since then, it became quite successful. So I was qualifying for the World Cyber Games in Korea. That was in 2003. That was actually my very first country outside of Germany that I visited.
Wow, and you
Went
just
to
made it
game.
to the mecca of esports right then.
Yeah, I was hanging out with Slayer's Boxer and like the
Wow.
legends of StarCraft, and that was really cool. And yeah, 2004, I managed to qualify for the Acon 4 tournament in China. That was pretty crazy as well. And yeah, after some years in 2006, I started to realize that Warcraft should not be everything in my life, because
Mm.
until that point, it was kind of everything in my life, to be honest. And yeah, 2006, I started to yeah, or I stopped playing Warcraft and focused a bit more on yeah, real life things. And then I got into poker, like many former RTS gamers.
Yep.
And yeah, and then after that, I traveled a lot. So that's a big part of my life as well. Traveled for a couple of years full time, and moved to London. And yeah, now I'm basically in London working in a normal job again after
Yeah.
my travel break. And yeah, that's about it in a nutshell.
That's already great, and I want to talk to you more about the life as a because you mentioned full time travel, right? We want to talk more about your life as a full time blogger, travel blogger. I think is that a good way of saying it?
I had a blog.
Uh
I
huh.
wouldn't really consider myself a travel blogger. Like originally, I started the blog to keep or to make my mom happy, because she was always worried, like,
Mm.
where are you? Like the blog was actually in German in the beginning, so she could read it. And then more and more of my friends were telling me, "Hey, these pictures are really cool,
Uh
and
huh.
but we can't read any of the text; it's all in German." And then I decided, okay, maybe I should switch to to English. And my mom actually started to learn English,
Oh, that's so
which was
cool.
which was really cute. Yeah, so it's a travel blog, but it was more to keep friends and family updated, and then it kind of evolved a little bit into something a little bit bigger. And it was never huge. Like it was still
Hmm.
relatively small, I would say, but I got like some benefits like free tours and stuff. But that
Cool.
was
Cool.
mainly because I usually sell my pictures, so I would get like a free helicopter ride in New Zealand for a couple of pictures. So that
Wow.
kind of saved some money. I was not really making much money with like none at all with advertising, because my website
Uh
didn't
huh.
have the traffic.
Hmm.
But I made a bit with like these Amazon affiliate links, but not really much. um so
Cool.
it was more like kind of for fun, I would say, and for my own personal archive, because I can just go on my blog and search Greenland, and I will see all my posts for Greenland.
Mm-hmm.
That helps a lot if you have a bad memory like myself.
And I already, before the podcast started, I already got a little bit of an impression of your previous travels, because you sent me 3 pictures and I could choose one. And on one of the pictures, you could probably see that in the thumbnail that on YouTube, you have one of the Asian rice hats on, rice farmers hats on. So you've traveled almost the entire globe. But back to where it all started with you, and you said you started off early with StarCraft. By the way, did you back then pay internet per minute? Was that still a thing, or?
No, we actually we didn't even have that. We start off with the DSL connections, like the very
okay,
basic.
so no ISDN. That was.
Yeah, well, that was not available in our village. Like, I grew up in a village of 800 people, so they kind of skipped us for that, and we had to wait for DSL to come out.
And even to this day, many villages in Germany, they feel neglected with good internet. Some things never change. So yeah, when you joined MTW, the Mortal Teamwork, that was back then one of the biggest names, not just in Warcraft 3, but in general. They were very successful in Counter-Strike and other games. So tell us more about how that came together, and who else was in that squad with you. So what was the original MTW roster that you were part of?
So basically, they actually approached me at some point in time when they realized that. So I was playing with a bunch of friends, and we then added some more people into the team. I will get back to that a bit later.
So you were one of the founding members of the squad.
I had my own clan that I like. MTW was my second clan, and so far still, like, I never had more than the clan that I created back in the days when I had no internet. It was like WOD, the Warriors of Death.
Oh, those were the OG names,
Yeah, nobody would use that kind of name for a professional team anymore.
No.
So we played like Diablo, and StarCraft, and then Warcraft. And that was like my 2 neighbors and like a few other people from the internet, basically. And we became pretty good. And MTW noticed that when we added some more people, like, for instance, maybe you remember Modo, and that we had Lash. We had like a few like really good Germans in the team in the beginning, and that's when MTW actually approached me, and they said, "Hey, we like your team," probably because we won everything, like all the clan leagues that we had at the time. That was way before WC 3L. And they just asked, "Hey, can we just get the whole team into MTW?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. So what does that mean?" Yeah, you would get like a salary, and this and that and gear. And I was like, "Oh, cool, you pay us?" Because that was like really new in the beginning, right? Like that was...
especially back then in the early 2000s, the salary was unheard of, really.
Yeah. That like, and we were, I think, one of the first professional Warcraft teams, I would think. And then at the same time, roughly, or I can't remember exactly when SK Gaming and Mouse came a bit later for sure, but SK Gaming was around from the beginning.
Okrana,
I think, as well. I'm not sure when they opened their Warcraft squad again. That would be something to check on Wikipedia.
That was crazy, man. So back in the old days, a couple of illustrious names, which not all of them are still there and invested in the scene. Some of them are still kicking, of course, SK, and other games, other titles, of course. But man, Modo and Lash, those are names I haven't heard not in centuries, in decades, probably.
And Modo's ally was Matzek. So Matzek was playing with Modo, and I was playing with Lash.
Yes.
We added a few Americans as well, like Ghost Rider and Wizard. I still remember Ghost Rider trash talking He-Man from SK Gaming.
He-Man from Sweden, yeah.
Yeah. These two, they were like just the funniest people to listen to in chat, because they would just flame each other in a really funny way, and like a high quality flame, like with some really like
with some spice in it.
Behind it.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
Do you remember what it felt like to to actually follow the esports games back then, because I remember from a viewer's or sometimes even listener's perspective, you would sit in a channel, and I mean, probably some younger listeners or younger gamers in general, they don't even know about that anymore. You were sitting in an IRC channel with a life bot sometimes, that would be like, oh, now the Archmage was killed, level 3 for the Blade Master. And then oftentimes you would only have an audio shoutcast, really, and no video. Can you imagine that today?
And nowadays it's hard to imagine, right? But
Yeah.
the good thing is, like, most of the people, a lot of the people that are in the Warcraft community now, they're still coming from that time. It's like kind of we're all the same, like the same kind of people since the beginning of Warcraft time. And they will probably remember as well, like the times when he said like shoutcast. So people would record a replay, so it would not even be live. They would just record the replay and put their audio on top and upload that, and everyone would be like, "Wow, that's awesome!"
And you would have to start both things at the same time, the audio and the video.
Yeah. At some point, they were syncing it as well, right?
Yeah.
But in the very beginning, you actually had to time it, yeah. And we had like Walk TV. That was like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of reminds me of like what Pat is doing now with the Reforged ladder that he's fixing on behalf of Blizzard, I would say, since they are not able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of interesting nuances back then.
Did you back in the day have a rival? We all remember the rivalry, let's say, between Grubby and Sky, or we now have that with, you could say, more or less Happy and Lynn, when they always meet each other, it's always super spicy. Did you have a special grudge team, a grudge team or a grudge matchup where it was always special to you?
I would say it was actually Mad Frog.
Okay. He's still around,
Yeah. Actually, nowadays, I get along with him very well. But back then, we were...
you guys had some beef going on?
Yeah, a little bit, but not much, because I'm generally like a really easygoing guy. Well, after my traveling, for sure, a bit more than before when I was playing. Probably I was not as easygoing when I was a pro gamer as I am now, after all the like traveling and like opening my horizon and stuff and seeing
becoming older and wiser. Yep.
Yeah, exactly, becoming older and wiser. But back then, I actually was watching. There's some YouTube videos of like very old replays that people were commenting on. And I was watching that actually with my stream together while we were waiting for the Reforged release. I had like a timer, and while we were waiting for the Reforged release, we were looking at some of the old replays on YouTube. And I noticed that like I was really not unmannered, but I was sometimes typing stuff that I wouldn't really even think of typing now, like doing some comments after like you had a good scene. Maybe you should really not just say anything, but I was like writing some comments and I was like, oh my God, what a douche I was back then.
Were you one of the easy after you won or killed an enemy hero, you would say in all chat easy?
No, I've never said that. I actually can't recall what I said exactly, but it was just like, you should just not say anything unless you are losing, then you're allowed to say something. But if you're winning, you should just keep your mouth shut. And the other guy is probably already not in the best mood, so you shouldn't put any salt in his wound. So I'm not doing that anymore. But in terms of like grudge matches, so in Germany, I always struggled to like beat Mio, for instance. So Mio, he was like my biggest opponent.
Great human player from SK later.
Yeah, he won the EPS, the German Meisterschaft, how they call it now, like championships in Germany. He won that 6 times in a row, and nobody could beat him. And I would practice my ass off, but he would always like, beat me. And I was like, damn it. But with Mio, I was actually on a very good note personally. Like I was actually staying at his home once, in Cologne when I was working there a little bit. So we met in real life outside of Warcraft as well, actually.
Fun story that I don't often get to share with anyone because normally nobody asks or cares about it. But Mio is a special player to me personally because before he joined SK, he was part of the clan that I was an Orgr at. That was pretty cool. So you could the clan was called Execute Esports, and we had some.
I recall it.
Yeah, we had some German people. Scato, for example, we had him in there, and some other cool cats. So yeah, we kind of forged him, and then of course when SK reached out, with their money
Yeah,
grip, we couldn't hold him anymore. But that was
yeah,
good times.
yeah. But you can't blame him, right? If you
No,
if
of
you
course
if you
not.
have the
Nobody
chance
nobody
to
blamed him.
win
Yeah,
money, yeah.
nobody blamed him. So
I
yeah,
wonder what he's up to nowadays. I'm not in touch with him anymore, sadly.
that's true. Yeah, a lot of people have shown up again. A lot of people came back, even if it's just for streaming or showing up in chat. At Back to Warcraft's chat or Grubby's chat or someone else's chat. But Mew has stayed put. Maybe he's lurking somewhere. Maybe he's still watching from afar. But yeah, for now, not so much. So you mentioned a little bit of beef with Mad Frog, and can you elaborate on that one a little bit more?
Sure. So the main beef that we had was basically that he accused me of listening to one of these shoutcasts, and so that was like a big story back then. Basically, I had like we had a clan war, right, with
Uh huh.
three one-on-ones and two and twos or something.
Was he already part of
And
SK?
I was sorry.
Was he already part of SK, or was he
Yeah, I
with?
think he was.
Mhm.
Yeah, and basically, I had like the shoutcast running from a parallel game
Mm.
from Flash, I think, and he misinterpreted that. We were actually talking about that in 2018 when we were both invited for the Blizzard Invitational. I saw him again like 2 years ago, basically,
Mhm.
and we were talking about that back then again, like really fresh, basically. And I explained it to him again because he thought that I had the shoutcast running from our own game for the whole time. Because I think I was creep checking him once, but I was just like lucky. And he basically always said like, yeah, he's using shoutcast, and that kind of pissed me off a little bit back then. And there was no real way to kind of prove it, but I think he just misunderstood it and was maybe like kind of a half joke as well, and then turned into like a running gag or so.
Mm.
Um, but like in the Blizzard Invitational, we were actually talking about it. He was like smiling, and I was like, "Oh wait, maybe he was just kidding with me the whole time, and he was not that serious." But that kind of bothered me a bit, and maybe then I was not as nice to him as I was to other people because of that.
So cool. Can you perhaps guide us through or take us through what an orc versus undead match, maybe between you and Matt Frog or someone else, looked like? Because I think it's nice for people who maybe just got into the game with Reforged or who jumped on the train a little bit later to compare. Do you remember what it felt like, what the meta was back then, against what kind of undead strategies you played?
So that's an easy one actually because Matt Frog he's playing his own meta since the
Mm-hmm.
beginning and he's still doing it now. So
Yep,
even
true.
against Frog he would always play Muscools, right? So he would play Muscools, go into Garks. It's like he has his very own specific
He hates
style.
fiends.
Yeah, he does not like fiends. That's true. But his really like his biggest strength I would say is his timing.
Mm-hmm.
So normally, if I would play against an undead with ghouls, like frenzy ghouls, I would not really worry too much as orc because it's much weaker than fiends. But if you play it in the way that he's playing it, it's actually really good, and he just got the timings right correctly. So that made playing him actually very special. I still remember games like on Twisted Meadows where he would have like a good advantage because of the fact that he
Mm-hmm.
plays ghouls and gargoyles, so he could
Mm-hmm.
creep the red dregs on the islands easily. And I would kind of try to counter him with like Bad Riders and Wind Riders and try to snatch his Zeppelin on the way to the island, stuff like that. So stuff like that would never really happen in a normal Orc Undead game where you have like just mass fiends coming against. Um, so yeah, he had a really own specific style, and I think that's actually really cool and good for the fans. If somebody has
True.
like a trademark and it's not just playing standard, I would say
Yep.
that kind of makes the player a bit more standing out, I would say.
Yeah. And of course, hey, let's talk about stuff that made you stand out a little bit. And I actually added it to the overlay as well because, of course, you were known for your towers and tower strategies of all sorts. Take us through that. Why were you so fond of towering? Against which races did you do it, or did you do it against all of them? Just tell us more about where the infamous Tower Taker came from.
I was doing it against everyone in every race. So I didn't really care who I was playing. It's a bit harder to tower certain races compared to other races, like Undeads, for instance, are really hard to tower. But generally, the reason why I was doing it that much was because I simply got pretty bored from the standard meta, and I could not push myself to just practice 5-6 hours a day and always play the same.
Mm.
I get really bored by it. So I always wanted to play like something unusual, and with the towers. So back then in the days of Reign of Chaos, they were so freaking overpowered. You would have like basically nowadays you have a tier 2 upgrade for defenses. You would have that by default on tier 1, and you would get experience from tower kills. So I found like some spots. I was actually spending a lot of time
Uh-huh.
to find like spots on the map where I can place a tower so the creeps
Without the
can't.
enemy noticing.
Yeah, and that too. Like for instance, on Lost Temple, you have the red spot between the 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock position, where you can like buy the Zeppelin and stuff. And they had like a big red ogre lord and the bloodlust lord and ogre, I mean, not lord. And there was like a little space where you could put a tower, and there was no ranged units, so they would just stand in front of the tower, which was protected by like a tree or something, and you could just creep the whole spot instantly, and my hero would become like level 3 when it comes out of the altar, picks up a nice item. And that was just like they fixed that quite fast afterwards. I was like, oh, that's kind of fun actually. And then I decided to do like normally you would use towers more like defensively, but I use them in the offense. And especially like I call them sneaky towers. So I would cut away trees, like I would scout with my peon, and then instead of sending my peon back or scout more, I would just go around the corner to that side that he will most likely not scout. For instance, if there's like a creep spot and he creeps that in the beginning, I would wait for him to finish the creep.
Yeah.
And then my peon would get to the same spot and start hacking down the trees, like 3 or 4 or so. And then I would build the tower in the tree line behind his gold mine or so, and he wouldn't even notice. And then when I have a lot of them up, because you can basically build 3 towers, for instance, and they would not shoot because they can't see because you're in the trees. But as soon as you build a tower like on the other side of the tree, then you have like 3 towers up already, and he's done.
Like, what the hell is going on here?
And sometimes I would even win a game that was completely lost. Like, let's say I would lose a big fight and the opponent has 70 supply, I have 30 supply. I lost all my heroes, and it would be GG, right? And I would just like, as a last resort, I would just take like 8 peons and build 8 towers in his main during the night.
Yeah.
And hope that he's not seeing it, which is actually quite, well, you know, with the production buildings, there's a high chance that with the rally points, he will see them. But sometimes they wouldn't see it. And then I have 8 towers and I attack him and he TPs and he's losing his whole army, and then I still win. So there was like a lot of comeback potential with them.
That's so sick. Do you miss those days, or do you think you're like? Let's actually rephrase that question and say, you're still streaming right now, Warcraft 3, and you're playing it. And in fact, we're going to talk about a cool, neat project that's coming up soon on your channel. So compare playing the game now to back in the days. In your opinion, what is the most significant thing that's changed?
So let me answer that in 2 parts. So if I look at the game itself, I think the game itself right now is in the, like, apart from all the Reforged stuff that happened, but the metas and the strategies, we have never had such a good Warcraft state in terms of like how quickly the meta is changing, how many strategies and heroes you can use. So back then it was kind of a bit less like less dynamic, I would say, and also less variation in terms of strategies. So you had like 1 or maybe 2, if you're lucky, 2 metas, and that's what you would play, you know. So often it would be like kind of boring if it's not like a super awesome match with close calls, you know. But nowadays I think the matches are like from the get-go much more interesting, just because we have so many different strategies and you don't really know what they're going for. And on a personal note, for like playing myself, like nowadays I play again, but I'm just like a newbie now, you know. Like back then I was actually decent, but now I'm just like really bad and old and slow. But it's still kind of fun to play. And the people on my channel are happy as long as I build some towers every now and then. So that's kind of like something I can still do. Um, but back then, of course, I had like a complete different situation. Like if you're a pro gamer, you have a lot of pressure.
Mm.
You're practicing strats. I would just play custom games over custom games. Nowadays, I just like go into ladder and play ladder, and I stream everything. Like, um, but I don't have to train for anything right now. So
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
very different mechanic. And what I miss is kind of the IRC days, because I still remember when I had really big games against like good opponents in like an important tournament. Just the amount of feedback on the IRC channel, because it was just so many
Mm.
people. I guess if you have like a big Twitch channel, you will get the same on the Twitch nowadays on the chat there. But I'm not on that level yet. My channel is still pretty small. But back then it was kind of huge, and also like just being on these big offline events as a player, especially in China, we had like 30 girls screaming, running after us just because we
Wow,
were
even
wearing
back
the
then.
shirt of the yeah in 2003. Because they didn't even know us. I think they just saw that we were
Mhm.
part of the tournament, and they were like, "Oh my
Okay.
god, bro, game!"
So
Like
you
just
signed
being like,
autographs back then in
yeah,
China.
yeah.
I wonder if
So
any of
that
the
was
girls
kind
still has that autograph to this day. And she'll
of
remember it and say, I don't even know what that is.
but he's cute.
Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, let's actually make a smooth transition over because you already teased over it. You're streaming actively on Twitch. Where can people find you real quick?
Yeah, it's Tower Taker.
Hmm.
So Tower and then Taker with the 3 instead of E in the end.
Okay.
Because they're cool, it's the lead.
Of
Lead
course, lead
place.
speak back then was much more prominent than it is today. And next to your own regular schedule, which is of course playing Warcraft 3 in all of its facets, you have a really cool project coming up that I'm also going to be part of, and
Yeah, you are.
I'm probably very as much of an excitement factor here as you. So tell us more about this project and basically unleash it to the viewers.
Uh, well, first of all, I'm really, really happy that you said yes to my
Oh, my pleasure,
proposal
man.
to
My
join
pleasure.
the
It's
team.
dude, it's like a childhood teenage dream come true. If my buddy Manfred, he's actually called Manfred, like if
Yeah.
if he'd be watching right now, maybe he is actually. So shout out to you, Manfred, if you're watching. But we used to play Warcraft 3 together like all the time, and if he knew that I'm in contact now with people like you or Grubby, he would be freaking proud and maybe a little bit of jealous too. So it was my pleasure to accept. But please continue, Taker.
So basically, the project is kind of like my very first cup that I wanted to host. So just to give you some background, I was actually when I was still with MTW. So as most of the viewers might know, we had like a relaunch with MTW, and we had a
True,
few
true.
good players. And then it all kind of went downhill because some of the people behind the scenes who were supposed to give money to the organization didn't do it anymore, and then we could not pay everyone. And yeah, Happy kind of public published a tweet which
Yes.
kind of resulted in MTW going down again.
Hmm.
But from back then, I still had like a lot of cool ideas. And about a month ago, I was thinking, okay, it looks like the new MTW, who's like they relaunched again with a new team again, but without Warcraft. Looks like they don't want to do anything with Warcraft anymore. That's fine. So I was trying to find my own sponsors, which actually did not look bad. I had like a nice presentation. Hey, this is what I need. This is what I want to do. This is your
Yeah,
audience.
yeah.
But now, sadly, due to the coronavirus situation,
Mm,
it's a really bad time to attract sponsors to something. To put it like
true.
yeah, it's just like bad timing, I would say.
It's very
Otherwise, I
unstable. A
would
lot of
have done.
companies are not sure how much they can spend and where they want to spend it. So I feel you. Hmm.
So I had the original plan was to do another format with actually quite a bit of money on the line, like between 2 or 3 thousand or so, which would be aimed for the pro gamers, right? So
Hmm.
that sadly is postponed now. I would say I'm still hoping that in the future I can do that, but for now, I kind of got sick of sitting at home in the self isolation with just going on to my normal life, like playing, working from home, and streaming on the weekend. So I kind of wanted to at least do something with the ideas that I had. And one of these ideas is that I'm going to host a cup that will only allow tavern heroes,
Nice.
which hopefully will result in a lot of cool game situations. So I call it the Tavern Brawl. I actually designed a nice logo. I'm really proud of myself because I spent a night redesigning my Twitch channel, and I kind of got familiar with all these editing tools. And then I was like, okay, just add a few icons from the Tavern Heroes, and there we go. We have a logo.
Yep.
That's all set. And just like literally like right before this podcast, when we recorded, I finished up the challenge and the Matcherino pages. And when we're done talking, I will actually put it out in the world. And I hope that people will like the idea. And we're going to raise some prize money, I hope, because right now I don't have a sponsor. So I'm hoping that we will get like at least like $50 or something like that. That would be nice. And the winner will get it all. And if we raise more, then I will just save the money. And I will have like another cup for sure. I have like actually a few different ideas. So the next cup might be a different format, or most likely it will, because the other guy who's actually casting with you and myself is Lado.
Shout out to him.
He actually prefers the other idea that I had, but it's involving teams. So you kind of need more players. And I thought for the very first cup, and just to get a foot out there and let everyone know, hey, I'm doing cups, I will start with the one-on-one cup first. But obviously, I think there's no need for another standard rules one-on-one cup. So I had a look, and I didn't really see any major tavern cups. I think there's something in the US, but I don't think anyone is really following it in the Europe. So I think it's the first proper European tavern hero only cup. And yeah, I'm just really excited about it because I can't wait to see all these weird hero combinations. We actually have we have some really nice admins on the team as well, and they created maps where you can't create a alter hero anymore. So we wanted to make sure that nobody picks it by accident. So we modified the maps. And yeah, I can't wait to see my beloved Pit Lord as well, which I play a lot on my own stream.
It's going to be so sick. On Monday. It's going to be so sick. So yeah, it happens this upcoming Monday. So when you're watching or listening to this podcast, guys, it's basically around the corner. So check out Tak3r's Twitch channel, which is where the action will be going down. So twitch.tv/TowerTaker. Don't forget the lead 3 at the end of the name. So yeah, really cool. I can't wait. Lado is a good lad. You're a magnificent lad, and I'm just very, very happy to be part of it. So I can't wait. And like you said,
let me just say that, like, I was watching all these things that you do with Grubby.
The fight nights,
yeah. We I think everyone is just like amazed because you guys you have like an amazing chemistry, and I was actually surprised that you would just say yes. Maybe I don't know, like I didn't know that you're like a little fan. But I was like, oh my god, if I could get Kendric and Lado together, that would be so awesome. And maybe it doesn't really matter what we cast. It could be, I don't know, playing with one finger or something. As long as you have the right people showing the content, I think you can really play whatever you want. So I'm really happy that you guys are in there, and I'm really looking forward to Monday.
My pleasure. And I think that's the cool thing about the whole Warcraft 3 community. No matter what Blizzard does to us, or no matter what happens to the game, the community is easily one of the friendliest and most supportive ones that I've personally ever known. So it's super cool that even in these times, people organize their tournaments. And like you said as well, with crowdfunding, or people potentially sponsoring a little bit of prize money themselves, if you look at back to Warcraft and what they've done recently, with the Korean tournament that they had, the Korean show match, it was, I think it was over 1,500. So the support of the community is still there, and I just want to extend that shout out to everyone that's watching and listening. And perhaps if you still have a couple of cents left, even in these Corona crisis times, then that would definitely be a project I would suggest you check out. So
and basically, I put the prize pool goal to $50. Yeah. And everything that's going beyond that, I will just save for the next cup, and then we can have like a much higher prize pool for the next cup. And I'm sure there will be a next cup.
Absolutely. Cool. So something I really wanted to talk to you about before we close the show and before we send you off was your life outside of Warcraft 3, because you've been gone for quite some time, and recently you showed up again 2 years ago with the Blizzard Invitational. So talk to us more about your travels and why you wanted to take that break from Warcraft 3 and what the other taker looked like.
Life. Yeah, basically the reason why I took a break from Warcraft was because even though I played different, I still had to practice a certain amount of time to be able to compete in the tournaments, right?
Yes.
And that part, as I mentioned, was just like really boring me at some point. And I made the decision to kind of call it a day. And I think it was the right decision because I'm really like happy that I had the chance to play on that level and get the kind of the status. I was so surprised when I came back. The amount of people that still remember me. I was like, when Blizzard invited me for this 2018 gig, I was like, guys, you realize I've been gone for 14 years, right? Nobody will know me anymore, I think. And I don't know. They're still talking about you in the comments. I was, what? Are you kidding me? And then I realized, oh, wow, there's actually still, turns out the community is still the same, right? We just all grow older.
Yeah.
And there's a few new people.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually for the pro gaming part, because the pro gaming is just a bit different than casual gaming. I was just bored of having that pressure of like having to play the custom game, having to perform well. So eventually I stopped doing that, and I got into traveling in 2009. And it was like in the beginning, it was just like normal holidays, right? I would go somewhere for a week, come back to like the job.
Yeah.
And then slowly it became a bit more. I would ask, hey, can I have 2 months off to go to South America? And they said yes. And I think when I did that trip, I kind of realized, that's actually like travel from one place to the other. It would be kind of nice to do that without having to come back anymore. So I actually, like, before that happened, I moved to London from my job in 2012. So they transferred me from Frankfurt to London. And then in that time, I got a lot into like climbing and bouldering as well. And in 2014, I quit my job and I traveled for a bit more than 3 years.
Wow. Had you saved the money before?
Yeah. I saved. I'm basically saving money since back in the days when I earned money with eSport, which was also quite a bit for the age at least. So even that money was saving. And I traveled full time and until 2018, which was just like basically a few months before I went to the Blizzard tournament. That's when I stopped the trip. And so I've seen 106 countries now.
Wow.
So I've seen quite a bit of the world, and I certainly will go on another trip. So I will not stay in London forever. This is just like kind of a pit stop because my plan is actually to first travel again, maybe do like 180 countries, like basically everything except for the war zones and
of course,
there's a
safety
few places
first.
on Earth you should not go to if you
don't challenge it. Don't challenge fate.
I promise my mom I will take care of myself, but there's still a lot of places I can see and I want to see.
What's that top number one country on your bucket list?
Oh God, there's so many. Well, I'm really looking forward to go to Nepal and spend like 4 months just trekking through one of the most amazing mountain sceneries in the world. Because I've seen most of the other most amazing sceneries on the planet already, but Nepal is still missing, and that's a big one. It's like a huge playground to hike, So that's the one that I'm looking most forward to, I would say. But there's so many other ones as well. That would deserve a separate podcast, to be honest. But that's basically my plan. And then once I will, after my second round of the world trip, which I will do in the future, that's also one of the reasons why I want to set up tournaments now, because I could do that while I'm traveling, compared to playing myself, where I would have to carry all my gear. That's just not going to happen, that I travel around the world again with like a mechanical keyboard. Because I'm doing like some hardcore treks in the mountains. Everything is like needs to be lightweight, and carrying gaming gear in the mountains.
That's not very safe and not very convenient.
like hosting tournaments. So the first one on Monday, for instance, that's something I could do on the road.
Mhm.
And once I'm done with my second trip, I will actually settle down and buy a house in Austria. I will open a bed and breakfast there
Oh,
because
wow.
I grew up in a restaurant, so I want to cook for people, and also I want to do like offline events there for Warcraft. So I will invite
Wow.
people to come over, and I will have like a jacuzzi, a climbing area, a bonfire, guitar area, a gaming room. So that's kind of my long-term plan.
So like an
And
esports bed and breakfast.
mountains with a nice lake and a mountain around.
That's actually so sick because if you move to Austria, then you're actually super close to my hometown and my parents' place. So maybe we can hook up in real life. You know, if I go on holidays from Sweden and then get
Yeah,
something going. That's so sick.
we'll have the Tavern Pros in real life in the
Yeah.
future. Yeah, that's like in the next like 3 to 4 years or so, and I'm sure we will still play Warcraft. Then that the game is timeless, even if Blizzard is trying to ruin it now with the Reforged stuff.
Yeah.
But the game itself will never die as long as we have people like Pat, for instance.
Absolutely.
Um, we will take care of it basically. But yeah, that's my plan for the future.
I'm 100% convinced that if there's no server shutdown, or even if there was a server shutdown, as long as the game is still accessible and available, the community will keep it going. Like you said, I'm definitely convinced that 10 years from now we're still gonna hang out. You know, we're still gonna chase down these little units and heroes. So that's
Just
awesome.
go and love the game. You can't let go.
Very true. So, guys, we're coming to an end. Tak3r, it was absolutely amazing to have you on the podcast here in Fast Expand, and I thank you very much for your time. I know it's precious, especially with so many projects and traveling going on in your real life. So, feel free to give a shout out, some final words to the listeners out there.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's a pleasure. And yeah, shout out to everyone who still remembers me and who supports me on my stream. I'm actually really, really surprised. Like, I had no idea what Twitch even is, right? Like
Uh huh.
2 years ago. And the amount of support that you get there with like subscriptions and donations, it's kind of crazy, to be honest. I was never expecting that. So I'm really yeah, like thankful for everyone who's supporting me there, and even all the ones that are just joining in.
Even the lurkers,
Um,
who are just chilling.
and it's just like, it's just so nice to get good feedback. And it seems like actually the last 2 days I was playing with Take
Mm-hmm.
on his channel. Like he's kind of doing like a Warcraft marathon now, since he
Oh.
can't really organize events during Corona times.
Uh huh.
And his chat was actually like, we played 2-on-2 and we had like the webcam on and we are just laughing and talking the whole time. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, you guys, you're amazing together." And they all had a great time. And it's just so nice to see this nice feedback and positive vibes.
Yeah.
So shout out to everyone who's like in the scene, like everyone who likes Warcraft is a cool dude anyway. So we all know that. And yeah, I hope we keep the game alive by creating events and just keeping it interesting. And I hope that new format will play a little part of it as well.
Cool. So yeah, guys, feel free to check it out this upcoming Monday on twitch.tv/Tak3r. We're starting at 6 o'clock. Sorry, the cup starts at 6 o'clock, but the stream starts at 7 Central
Exactly.
European summertime. So if you're around and you don't have anything else to do, and why should you have anything else to do because it's freaking Warcraft 3 time, then tune in. And Lado, myself and Tak3r will try the best that we can to keep you guys entertained. Until then, feel free to also follow Tak3r on Twitter or Twitch or anywhere else, YouTube, that you can find him. And until then,
I'm
guys,
everywhere.
Tak3r's everywhere, just like the towers. He's everywhere. So thank you for listening. Thank you for
Thank you so much,
watching.
Kendric.
Say what? Say what?
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, dude. It's my pleasure and honor. So we'll see you guys on the next episode. Fast Expand. Stay tuned. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening or watching. And take care. Stay safe out there in these troubled times.